the process starts with the log. This is a piece of ash, and initially you need to split it down into, depending on the size of the diameter of the log, this will be split down into quarters. And I'm going to utilise a natural shrinkage mark there. This cutting tool is called a froe, and this mallethy thing is traditionally called a beetle. You can hear it splitting now. And there it is. That's one of the reasons we like using ash, because it's got a nice straight grain and splits relatively easily. So now we'll repeat the process, cutting down through the pith and dividing it into quarters. In the best traditions of Blue Peter, here's one that I prepared earlier. And we take some of the edges off that using this side axe, which you can see has got a flat on one side, so it doesn't spin out so much. So we just take off some of the bulk. The thing to watch when you're doing this is that you stand to one side of your arc of swing, otherwise obviously you can do yourself a pretty nasty injury. But anyway, that will go on to the next stage, which is on the shave horse.
We call this a shaving horse, and we put the wood in there, and as we push down, that clamps it. Then I take a draw knife and I shave it off until we get it reasonably round. Now, a lot of people gasp because they say, what are you doing pulling a sharp edge towards your body? But the mechanics of your arm won't allow it to come in, so it's quite safe. And we forgot to mention that this is green wood, which is freshly cut and wet, and so it is easier to work with. So when we got that reasonably round, we turn it over and do the other half, and then we put it onto the lathe.
You can see I've already done some work on this one, and you wrap this cord around and you locate it on the two bars here, so that now it'll spin round between the centres when I work the treadle here. So it's turned by the friction of the rope on the piece. So this is a roughing out gouge, deep scallop to it for taking out the rough work. This bit here is left not fully rounded, so it takes off quite a lot of work quite quickly. And as it gets rounder, you can hear a change in the note of the chisel. And you can also see, if you're looking towards the top side of the piece, that it's becoming a firmer outline. So now that bit is actually reasonably round, but it's got no finish to it. It's got a very rough surface. So you use, this is a skew chisel, big skew chisel, and this is one of the tools that you'd use to start putting a finish on it. Unfortunately, the lathe is moving around a little bit. Now it's reasonably smooth, and you'd use this to put in shapes and beading, and to put in the shapes that you want for your finished leg. And there are a variety of shapes of chisels. The big skew chisel here, there's a big flat chisel, the smaller skew chisel for finer work, and other chisels for doing beading and that sort of thing. This is the finished chair leg. You've got a little bit of waste that you cut off, but that's the hole where where it was held in the lathe. See, that's a piece from the same tree. Chop it off, and basically there you've got a chair leg, and you'd make 4 of those and 3 stretchers. The stretchers being the things that keep the legs apart, 1 fore and aft on each side, keeping the front and rear legs apart, and then the other one going across between the 2 stretchers. So back in the 1900s, they'd be turning out a gross of these, but for each gross of legs, they'd have to include the stretchers as well. And they turned out 2 gross a week of legs, and then the stretchers as well. So it comes to something like 230 odd pieces of turned wood, for which they got paid 15 shillings. And they could turn from the bit we started with, a log, to a leg like this. They could do that in 6 minutes, which is a phenomenal output. They were very adept at it, and they're very strong. Well, this is just a mind-boggling production rate to me, anyway. Perhaps I'm just forgetting how energetic I was when I was 19.